He interviews some sick people on the show. Right off the bat, as soon as I walked out the door to check on him at like 6:30 in the morning, I looked over and I knew something was wrong. And I ran over to him and, I shook him and he was stiff and I knew he was gone. When I found out about Celebrate Recovery, it was like 10 years ago. I was in church and somebody said something about Celebrate Recovery. I had no idea about it. And I remember getting on my phone and I looked up Celebrate Recovery and I went, this is unbelievable. This is what I want to do.
All right, guys. So today I have Jim Jensen.
Who?
Jim Jensen. He's a brother in Christ. He does Celebrate Recovery. I haven't heard his testimony yet, but I'm sure it's amazing. And I think that he'd be perfect for you guys, unbelievers, believers, everybody from all around. It doesn't matter. Jim, you can start off with your testimony from the start. And we got all the time in the world. So
well, thank you, Dillon. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. My story starts a long time ago. I was brought up in Tewksbury, Mass. I'm the youngest of 6 children, and we happen to all be redheads. Like my mother and father had red hair. Okay. So we had, that you don't find that very often. So right from the get-go, I think my earliest memory is around 7 years old. And that's amazing for me because my memory is horrible. And I actually think I shut a lot of things out. But so when I was 7, I remember my father left my mother. He was in my life pretty much my whole life, but he left, moved to Lowell, and kind of put his drinking and his drug use, and I didn't find this out until later, his drinking, drug use, and his womanizing, girlfriends and that lifestyle before his children. But he did visit me every weekend. But right from the get-go, it was all about drinking. I have 4 brothers, 1 sister, and every single one of them got bitten by alcoholism and drug addiction. So it was, I used to think I had a normal upbringing and a normal childhood, but in retrospect, looking at it, it was quite different. Yeah. So my mother was a nurse, and we did own our own house, but we were on the government cheese. You know what that means?
No.
Welfare.
Oh, yeah, welfare. Yeah,
welfare.
I don't know why.
So powdered milk, things like that. My father did visit me every weekend, but, he always came and I don't resent him. He just did the best he could. He had his Cadillac and he had his coffee brandy, and he would visit me every weekend, give me a couple of dollars, take me to McDonald's and leave. But this is how my childhood started. And it was, if I didn't comply, being the youngest, if I didn't comply with like changing the TV channel or whatever, I couldn't, get out. You're not watching TV. Yeah. It was like a bully situation. So my bearings were all screwed up. So I probably started drinking around 12. My brother and sister had a band. They used to practice in the basement, and I became the beer boy. There was a refrigerator downstairs in one of the bedrooms. So, all their friends would come over, bring a 6-pack, a 12-pack, and, slowly I would steal one from somebody and just start drinking all the time. And it was just like, it was like second nature. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to drink all the time. So, and this is at 12 and 13. I have memories of pretending like my brother had this old VW bus in the backyard that broke down, and they would just leave their cars in the yard. I had gotten a 6-pack, and this is like at 13 or 14 years old, a 6-pack of Miller, and I would drink beers and pretend I'm a bus driver in the VW bus. And I think about that now, and I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable. I mean, when most kids are home doing their homework, I don't blame my mother because she was working all the time. But one significant thing in my life was my mother was I wouldn't say devout, but she was Catholic, and she was a real good singer. She was like a professional singer on the side. So she would take me to weddings on the weekends, funerals, just these, to make side money for her. But she would also go to this place called the Christian Formation Center in Andover, and it was Catholic, and I just have such great memories of that. And I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was like this Christian place, which Catholics are Christian anyway.
Right.
But the thing with this was they had this huge hall, and on Thursday night they had a prayer meeting, and my mother would play guitar. Isn't that funny? Because that's what I do now.
Yeah.
With a friend of mine for Celebrate Recovery and the shelter on Saturday mornings.
He's really good at it.
Yeah, well, that's to be debated. But I remember having people, jumping around, speaking in tongues, praying, and it was just it was a whole thing. And I was probably like, that started when I was like right around when I started drinking. So it was just it was a good experience, that I was introduced to God, but it was only because my mother had to take me, because she didn't want me to get beat up at home by my brothers.
Right. Was you drink? So you was drinking around that time too?
I didn't drink all the time, but any opportunity I had, I would try to get. I mean, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it was easy for me to get alcohol because there was a store like a couple of miles up the street, and it was easy for me because everybody that came into the store usually knew my brothers. So I'd say, "Hey, can you buy us some beer?" And they would just buy us beer. And then we'd go out into the woods, get drunk, and go home later at night. And, my mother was sleeping because she was working all the time. But that's basically how it started. And so when I was about 16, she decided to sell the home in Tewksbury. I ended up moving out actually to Lowell with my father and his other family. And, it's funny because I didn't even put that together when I moved in with him. I mean, I knew his girlfriend, but he had 2 kids with red hair. And I didn't realize that until like decades after. I mean, how could I be that blind? But that's what alcohol does.
Yeah.
It just blinds you. And it's like, so my childhood was like, it was like there was no structure. It was all chaos. It was, I didn't learn to do anything. I just knew how to drink and try to get out of stuff or comply with somebody older than me that was saying, do this or you're not going to be able to eat today.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a good childhood. He interviews some sick people on the show. So when I was 16, I moved to Lowell. My dad, he talked me into joining the Army in 1980. So I joined the Army National Guard, went to Fort Leonard, Missouri, did my basic training, did my AIT, 51 November, water treatment plumbing specialist. And throughout basic training, I think it was like 6 months for both of them total. So like for that whole time, most of it, like 80% of it, you couldn't drink. It was basic training. And then when I finished basic training, it was like this truck came, this beer truck came, and we were all allowed to have a couple of beers. And it was like, thank God I can drink now. But from there, it was.
You said 80. Sorry, you said 87% that you couldn't at the time that you couldn't drink, or you could.
No, well, when you're in basic training, you're not allowed to drink.
Oh, okay.
You can't. They had men's enlisted clubs and like bars on the base.
Okay.
So, but they allowed us to have a couple of beers, and the next thing I know, I'm being chased by MPs and German shepherds, and from being out clubbing all night. It was just.
So they came after you for that?
Well, they would do crowd control on the base
I see.
Because people would leave the men's enlisted club drunk. I was 17, so it was just a bunch of kids, and it was even worse for me because I was like I was 12. So like when you start drinking and drugging, you stay there. You don't advance, you don't grow.
Right.
So I was a 17, 18-year-old child in a child, just being a child mentally. Right. But that I finished that and came back to Lowell, and then the dysfunction really hit. It was just, I moved in with some girl I didn't even know that knew one of my brothers or something, and I was only 18, but she had 2 kids, and so we're living together, and it was just all about drinking and I would do, when I was younger, I did a lot of hallucinogenics, like acid and mescaline and all that, just horrible things, and it's not about those stories, but just anything to get me out of myself, just because I was scared. I was a little child, didn't know, what to do, how to act. And I attribute my personality today due to that, because it's like a survival mechanism. So I was in my early 20s, and then the arrest started. It was drinking in public, not registering my car, attaching different plates, just all kinds of things. Got into construction. And then my brother Roy introduced me to intravenous cocaine use, which was insane because now doing cocaine at 11 o'clock at night, now I could stay up all night and all the next morning and drink. This is great. Where was this 10 years ago? Right. That's because partying, that was my job. Yeah. That was my business. So, it's funny, the things I can remember doing. I remember I had to go buy a needle down Adams Street in Lowell, and it cost me $10, and it was cut in half. The kid had it in his mouth. He stored a used hypodermic needle in his mouth because he didn't want to get caught by the cops. Right. You couldn't have that. And I bought that with blood still in it and didn't clean it.
I've done it too, yeah.
It's insane with the disease. Right, well, wherever I got to where I was going. So I contracted Hep C, which can be deadly. Yeah. And this is when they didn't have a cure for it.
Back then it was a death sentence.
It didn't look good, but I ended up, going to the doctor and then a liver specialist and finding out that I just carried it, but it was, it wasn't affecting me, and I believe that was God. So anyway, I ended up getting my first felony in Lowell. I was doing construction, doing siding, and this kid we would drink beers every night going home. And we saw some stage, and he said, "Hey, let's take this and say our boss told us to get it." So we ended up taking some stage down at like 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock. And we got caught, and I got arrested. And that was 1985. And I didn't know it, but it was 3 felonies. It was stealing over $100, receiving stolen property, malicious damage. So all felonies. And I'm like, like my childhood, didn't realize it until decades after. So I went through my 20s. I ended up meeting one of my sister's friends that used to follow her band to all these clubs because I would do the lights, because that's my job, is to hang around in clubs. And this is what we do. We drink. So I ended up hooking up with her, moving in with her because it was convenient. She ended up getting pregnant with my son Mark in 1987. But all along, doing this, I knew what I was doing was wrong. I mean, I didn't necessarily think it was wrong. I mean, half of me said this is what I should do because this is how I was raised, but something inside of me knew that I didn't want to do this all the time because it was too hard. So I ended up moving from Lowell to New Hampshire with this woman. We ended up getting married. And then I had my second child in 92, which is my daughter, Jackie. And so, but that first marriage ended up failing after like 25 years. But when I moved to New Hampshire, God started putting, and I didn't see this until later, God started putting things, right from the get-go, he was putting things on my path, like the Christian Formation Center that my mother used to go to. He put that in my path. I joined a volunteer fire department in New Hampshire, in the town I was living. I know he put that in my path because that wanted me to just change everything I knew. I didn't want to be a drunk. I didn't want to be a felon. I didn't want to be a drug addict. So I ended up doing that. I ended up doing that for 20 years. But the funny thing is, they put me through Firefighter 1. They put me through my first EMT course. And I found myself going to my second level of EMT, being on that fire department. And I found myself being in classrooms and they, like, the instructor would talk about, we started learning about IVs and stuff. So they would bring up hepatitis C, they'd bring up drug users. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, if they only knew what I know, because I know what he's talking about, because I've lived this. Right. That's God. That's God putting this in my life. And so I went from using IV drugs to doing IV on patients, to helping people on fire scenes, to working with police. I'm used to being arrested. I'm not used to working beside them, right, and them, being friendly to me. It was almost like I would just try to almost turn around and when I saw a cop because I was so used to, I was probably arrested like 20 times. But that gave me a want to get out of that. And I think I was approached either 2 times in my life by born again Christians, coming to my door, or I actually worked with a friend of mine named Russ, and he became saved and asked me if I wanted to get saved at his church, at his house. And I said, yeah. But I had a beer in my hand while I got saved. Yeah. But it's still, I was looking for something. And God was reaching out to me. But I was very, very stubborn, as you can imagine, because you've been in addiction yourself. So my first marriage ended, and I moved back to Massachusetts. And I had bouts of, years where I would go without drinking on my own willpower, and it just, and then I did AA. Before that, I did 90 meetings, 90 days, and that planted a seed, and they would talk about God in AA, but I wasn't ready yet. So I ended up moving back to Massachusetts and meeting my second wife. And that was a huge blessing because she introduced me to God. She was raised in the church, and I've known her for years. She grew up in the same town as me. So she had just ended up getting divorced. I had just been recently divorced, living with my mom. So my MO is to attach myself to somebody and, make it easy for me because I can't take care of myself. I don't know how to. I can show you how to drink and party, but I can't show you how to survive. So we ended up getting married, but she brought me to Northeast Christian Church. And, it wasn't right away that I got into it. It was like a gradual thing. Some people have this, they meet God experience in their bedroom, but I didn't have it. It was like a slow, gradual thing. And, but it felt good. It felt right, so I got Pastor Dick baptized me in the old tank. And, I just started doing stuff, and it just felt great, and all the time that I was doing this, over the decades, I was going through lawyers trying to get rid of that felony that I didn't even know I had, because I was trying to get a gun license. And people would say to me, like my wife at the time would say, "Why are you so stuck on this? Why don't you just let it go?" Well, number one, I'm stubborn, and I just don't know when to stop. I just go until I, get what I want. But I realized the second thing is that if I did that, that kind of makes me look like a better person. Not that that's a bad thing, but I was looking at it like, I want to be different. I want to be like those other normal people. I don't want to be this dysfunctional child locked in an adult body. So after I got saved, I ended up getting my fourth lawyer and ended up getting a hearing on the charges. And I ended up actually taking Pastor Paul with me on one of them. The judge denied it, but let me back up a little. The judge denied it for like the 100th time, and on the fourth lawyer. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to write a letter to the judge, and I'm gonna make copies of all the stuff I did on the fire department and get my EMT. And I was working in Lowell as an EMT too, because I had it sealed. But it's still gnawed at me. You know what I mean? So the judge, I got a call like a month later, and the lady says, "I can't believe I'm going to say this, but you have a hearing. The judge changed his mind and is granting you a hearing." And that's when I asked Pastor Paul to go with me. I'm just going in on my own. So I went into court on my own and ended up seeing my lawyer there. And he came up to me. He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I have a hearing." He says, "What are you talking about? The judge denied you." I said, "No, I wrote him a letter." And he went, "Oh, wow, that's really amazing." And, I attribute all this to God. God's given me back what, and it's not because I wanted it. I think it was him saying, "I'm going to give you a taste of what I can do for you." Not because I've been faithful, just to say that I can do this for you. Yeah. I can overturn something that nobody ever gets anything overturned. The Hep C thing ended up, when I saw that liver specialist, he said, "I don't even have to see you anymore. You tested positive for it before, but it's gone. You'll never have a problem with it. I didn't have to take that medication." Wow. And it's just, these are all God moments for me. Yeah. So the judge ended up granting me a hearing, and Pastor Paul went up and said a few words for me. And, the judge, looked at him and really said, "Wow, this is, and he said, Jim started a Celebrate Recovery at our church. We trust him. We give him a key to the building." I never thought I'd have a key to a building. I'd be the one to break in, to get money, to to drugs or alcohol.
We wouldn't be in here right now if it wasn't for a key.
That's right. Well, I did break a window. No, I'm kidding.
Today's sponsored by Celebrate Recovery.
Anyway, so the judge said to the prosecution, would you like to proceed with this? Because he allowed me to have a hearing. And everybody was dead. All the police that had arrested me were gone. And it was from 1985. And this is just 3 years ago. And
you were still dealing with something from 1985, 3 years ago?
3 years ago. When she called me up, she started laughing. She said, Your Honor, it's Mr. Jensen's case from 1985. She started laughing. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So the prosecution declined to prosecute me again. So he says, okay, you're all set. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? What happened? Boom, that was gone. Erased.
Wow.
You don't have a felony erased. They stay with you.
Yeah.
So
I have a bunch of them.
That's God. I mean, that God can make the impossible possible.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's just unbelievable. I was on top of the world. You know, I went up in front of church. Pastor Paul wanted me to share what God's done in my life. And you know, when I found out about Celebrate Recovery, it was like 10 years ago. I was in church and somebody said something about Celebrate Recovery. I had no idea about it. And I remember getting on my phone and I looked up Celebrate Recovery and I went, this is unbelievable. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is it. Because I know about addiction.
Right.
And it was just God giving me something else. I don't deserve it. I don't know why I know why he's doing it, because he wants to save souls. Mm. But me, I don't know how to do anything. Yeah. I could barely survive, but he gives me the tools to try to survive. So, you know, at this time when I started Celebrate Recovery with a couple of other people, things were good. My son was going through addiction problems of his own. My daughter was going through addiction problems of her own. I ended up getting my daughter into the Walter Hoving home in New York. So she ended up moving out there, and it's like a teen challenge, but it's a great place. So she ended up staying out there for like 3 years. But my son ended up being on the streets. He started getting into heroin, which all changed to fentanyl. And, you know, I was working on an ambulance in Lowell at the time. You know, for 13 years, I worked for Pride Star Trinity, and which was a trip because like I said, you know, I always have that thing in the back of my head that you're not good enough. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be a loser. You're supposed to be a drunk. You're supposed to be a felon. You're supposed to be a drug addict. And, you know, but now God's given me all these opportunities that I can reach out to people. Mm. I get to pray with people in the back of the ambulance, you know, people that are sectioned. And, you know, and my wife at the time would say, you got to be careful, you know. I said, careful for what? What's wrong with praying for people? This is a good thing. It was just a blessing, you know. Yeah, it was a huge blessing.
That's an amazing thing to even be able, like you said, to be able to pray for people. Was your wife just kind of off about it because maybe those people, she was worried that those people might not want that or something? Or, well, even if you're praying for them in private, though, it's different, I think.
Well, she was, I think, paranoid. She didn't want me to get fired. She thought that the company, but my attitude was, if they have a problem with that, I mean, they can say something, but God's going to protect you. Right. I mean, if He wants to be praying for, what's wrong with praying for people? Right. I mean, I was looking over the literature to get my EMT, and at one point, if somebody lost their child, you know, that was birthed early, it said one of the questions on the test was, what would you do if somebody, you know, had a stillborn? And would you do this? Would you do that? Would you pray for them? Would you baptize the baby? And I could have baptized the baby. You could baptize the baby. You don't have to be like a pastor
Right.
or a preacher or a priest. And so, it's just, I transported a priest once and from the hospital back to where he was living in the retirement home. And, I said to him, and this was new in my Christian life. And I said to him, you know what? I'm going to pray for you. And I didn't pray for him there because I was like embarrassed.
Yeah.
And it just bothered me so much. That you
didn't do it.
God wanted me to pray for him.
Right.
He was just coming out of the hospital, but I was intimidated.
Yeah.
Because he's a priest. Who am I to pray for a priest? But now God's brought me to a place where, I'm bringing people into hospitals in Boston, surrounded by serious patients, and, saying a quick prayer and still being a little intimidated,
Yeah.
but I need to, I would ask them, do you mind if I say a quick prayer for you? Oh, yes, absolutely. And, trying to get it done. Working with homeless drug addicts, that are in the ER that everybody's ignoring, because not that they're bad people, they get overwhelmed. But I just had a heart for them,
Yeah.
And dealing with my son. I used to drive around Lowell with my partner in the ambulance when we didn't have calls, looking for my son to see if he's down, next to the river in a tent, and just, I ended up bringing him to Celebrate Recovery and ended up having him live with me. We got him off methadone for a couple of weeks, and then he would just keep relapsing. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then August 12th of 22 was Friday night. I ended up Ubering him from a treatment center to my house. I was working, and I said, just hang out. And we didn't let him in the house because he had stolen from us a couple of times, but I still wanted to help him.
Yeah.
So I ended up going home that Friday night, and I ended up. He was taking so much medication, it just wasn't him. He was like paranoid from the meth, and he always had to be on something. And it had been 7 years of in and out of treatment centers, repeated, going to the ER, saying I'm going to hurt myself. I got to tell you this story. I was working one day, I'm on the ambulance, and I'm outside one of the hospitals in Lowell. And he had called me the day before, and he said, go to the ER and, do what you normally do and tell them that you feel like you're going to die. And they'll get you a bed. They'll get you a place. So the next day I was at that hospital and I had a few minutes, and I said to my partner, I'm going to go in and say hi to my son. So I go in there, he's in the ER, and he called me just before I went in, and he said, they're releasing me. I said, what are you talking about? They're releasing you. He said, they're letting me out. I said, did you tell them that you were going to hurt yourself? And he said, yeah. So I went there to go see him, and I didn't say anything to anybody. I went up to him, and he said, yeah, she's coming back with the paperwork. I said, and you told them all that stuff? So, I was in my uniform, and the lady came over and she had some paperwork, and she said, can I help you? And I said, well, this is my son. I was just saying hi because I was, picking up a patient. And I said, you're releasing him? And she said, yeah. I said, after he told you he was going to hurt himself? And she said, well, not now. And she turned and walked away.
Wow.
And then called my work and reported me for going in for non-work business. So I'm not saying that she's a bad person. I'm saying,
the spirit of like
they're overwhelmed,
terror.
but
No, but that's something too, is like people, if it ain't them, if it ain't their dad, if it ain't their mother, if it ain't their brother, if it ain't their sister, it's almost like people just don't care today. And one of the things is that Jesus' second commandment to us is to love our neighbor as we love ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's just disgusting for people to treat other people that way, and to just blow people off like you and like me. I feel like we chase the heart of God, so we have heart for certain people like that. And I want to help everybody that I can. Anybody that comes to me, I'm gonna help them. And that's sad that she would even treat you that way and treat your son that way, especially. But it's not
the
necessarily.
world.
It's not them as people. It's their flesh. It is them as people, but they're not in. They don't bear the fruits of the spirit like
That's right.
like we should. Because if they did, they would care more. They'd be like they should be more respectful.
Yeah. It just makes me feel more blessed because I have
You have that
a love,
Yeah.
a lot of it I really didn't have because I was part of the world.
Right.
So anyway, I ended up Ubering him to my house and ended up having an argument with him because we were arguing about he was paranoid. He says I keep meeting the same people in treatment centers. I said, well, people tend to go back to treatment centers, and you're going to run into people after 7 years.
I used to be the same way, like just so paranoid about everything.
And I just felt like I just didn't know. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I would pray for him and bring him to Celebrate Recovery, but you could bring a horse to water, you can't make him drink. But the next morning, and I had him over quite a few times, I would check on him the next day. But the next day he was in a tent. I put a tent up for him. It was in August. And there was, right off the bat, as soon as I walked out the door to check on him at like 6:30 in the morning, I looked over and I knew something was wrong. And I ran over to him and, I shook him and he was stiff and I knew he was gone because I've been an EMT for 30 years and I've ran into a lot of people that were dead. So I didn't want to work him, not for lack of love. I didn't want the memory of working him. I mean, he had lividity, he had all the signs. And I ran back in the house and woke my wife up and called 911. And my company responded. My ambulance company responded. And that's not the first time my company has responded to my family. It happened years ago, but that's not the point. But it's just, this church just, I mean, we had a service here and they just rallied around me. They were bringing food to the house and it was, my phone wouldn't stop. It was like I was with God constantly. He surrounded all his angels around me. And, I had a choice. I could be selfish and think about me. And that's what I normally do. My whole life is satisfy what I need, drink and numb, drug, but I didn't do any of that. And that's all God. That's all God. I mean, and I would have told you before, there's no way I can survive, losing a child, but with God, anything's possible. Yeah. So it's, so now I try to, through God supplying Celebrate Recovery, it's, we go out and we talk to people that are currently using, that don't know Jesus. And I share that story and it's so emotional that how can you ignore that? Yeah. I mean, it's just, because I know what an addict goes through. Because I mean, I could say I still am, but I'm kind of not.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way about it.
That little guy that always was on your shoulder, mine's gone.
That's me too.
Not that he'll come, he could not come back.
It's always there. It's always there. But when I go to a meeting, I don't say, my name's Dillon Pastors, I'm an addict. I say, my name's Dillon Pastors and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I because the reason why is I'm not saying that anything was wrong for them saying that. They feel like they need to remind themselves of this, but I believe we are what we eat. We are what we say we are. And I used to be an addict, but I've literally went to hell. And I literally went to hell. I don't mean I went to hell. And I was burning, and that experience has scared the crap out of me that I would never go back into drugs again. And I just know that.
That's good.
I still struggle with nicotine and little things. I'm working on that. You know what I mean? But
It's a process.
yeah, it's I'm going through a process of it. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Your story is very powerful, and I'm very sorry that you went through that. I've lost a lot of friends to the drugs, and
every 5 minutes.
yeah,
in this country,
crazy. Yeah, and it's a very, very sad thing.
You had Eric on your show just recently.
Yeah, and him losing
he's another testament of, like I was saying this morning at the shelter. I didn't know Eric that well at all. I don't even know if I knew him when his daughter passed away over 2 years ago. He was serving at Living Waters, and I was serving there too. But somebody had said that he was coming in the same week that his daughter passed away to serve homeless people breakfast.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
God.
Yeah.
I just went up and hugged him.
Selfless in a place
it is,
especially in a place where it's so easy to be selfish.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's so easy to go and be selfish in a situation like that because you have the excuse to be like, "No, I'm hurting, I'm broken," right? But instead, you found other ways. You found more ways to be selfless.
God provided those ways.
And I wish that I would. 8 months ago, I wish I applied God and Jesus into my life because I had traumatic things happen. I lost a lot of things. I lost my wife. I lost her kids, right? And I got very bitter and very selfish. And that I lost them even more through that process. When if I would apply Jesus and God into the situation, I probably would have gained better insight. I probably would have had a better outcome, right? And I face that today. I face that consequence. I have to carry that.
You weren't ready.
Right. I wasn't.
And, I'm 62 and I've never been wise. Well, I've been wise, but not that way. But it's all, you get wisdom, when you get older, and you're just not ready till you're ready.
Right.
And you weren't ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for decades. It took me until my 40s, early 50s to really start wanting, it's hard. Addiction's all about being selfish.
But I'm also one of them guys that the only way, I say this all the time, the only way out of it is through it.
That's right.
You have to go through it.
Yeah.
Because you can go to the meeting, right? And it's just like, and it's sad because most of us, we don't make it. Some of us, we die in the process. But I still believe that Jesus has a very strong heart for addicts.
Oh,
and I believe
absolutely.
That he still saves us throughout.
Look at the people he hung out with.
Right.
Everybody was completely broken.
Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you this. I was transporting a Section 12 patient after my son had passed away, and I got this tattoo of him. And this guy looked messed up. He was covered in tattoos. He was really broken. And when you get sectioned, it's not a good thing. I mean, you go into a hospital, but you're not going anywhere for a while.
That's crazy too.
It's like prison.
Yeah, I've never, and I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to say this because we know in Indiana that doesn't happen. Like you don't get sectioned.
Well, there has to be something.
No, nope.
There's got to be some fail safe for like mental.
I'm telling you, there isn't. Like
mental health.
You can go to the crazy hospital. That's it. Like you can go to the hospital and go to the floor.
There's probably something you're just not aware of it.
I don't know, but all I know is like every time that guy needed to go to rehab, there wasn't none of that.
Yeah,
but they send you to jail out here and then to put you in rehab. If you're you could call right and say my son's getting messed up, I need help, and they'll come and grab him and take him to jail and then take him to rehab. They don't do that in Indiana.
Yeah,
there is a way to you got to go through the process yourself though.
Section 35.
Something like that. I don't know.
I Section 35 my son once. I had to go to court, fill out an affidavit, and go in front of the judge. He reads it. They assign a social worker. Then he makes his decision. If he says yes, then you leave. You have to go find your loved one. They don't actively look for your loved one. Once you find your loved one, then you have to get the police there. Once that happens, they arrest them, bring him back to court. If the court's not open, they're not arresting him. They bring him back to court. He goes in front of the judge. Then he does the Section 35, which they send you for 30 days up to 90, but it's usually like 28 days.
I think they should do that in every state.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think that should be something they do in every state.
the mental health system is overwhelmed right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and it's that's why we need Jesus,
Yeah.
because you could do it with Jesus without anything.
Yes.
But so back to the story I was telling you. So I was transporting to Section 12, and he was down, and I'm doing my paperwork sitting in front of him, and I said, "Hey, do you believe in God?" And I started to just talk to him, and then I started telling him about my son, because I can see exactly what he's doing on his paperwork. And so I know, what I mean, you can lie to me, but that's up to you.
Right.
So I'm talking to him about it, and I wanted to pray for him. He started crying. He knocked my son in the woods. He knew my son. So I'm like, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's just, is that God telling me that I'm doing the right thing? Thank you. Is Jesus saying, thank you for helping this person? I have your son. I got it from here, and you keep spreading my name. So, it was a trip, because he remembers him. He knows him. He saved him one night, and then he just finds out he's dead, and he's crying. I bring him into the facility, and the EMTs normally don't hug the patients to say goodbye.
Right.
I'm hugging this guy. I'm praying with this guy. I'm telling him, you can do this. I said, take care of this guy. He saved my son's life. They kind of look, not all of them, but some people judge when they're in the world,
Yeah.
and they see a guy getting sectioned. He's dirty. He's on his last leg. They tend to judge him. And most of these people are great, though.
Yeah.
They give the shirt off their back.
These are the people that Jesus died for, too.
That's right.
These are the people that Jesus pursued.
That's right.
So it's good. You're one of the ones where, like, you should still be an EMT.
Yeah. Well, if they paid more.
Yeah. Right.
I do miss it, though.
Because there's like officers out there that truly do care, and I've seen it. I've seen it. You know what I mean? And like they don't judge you. They don't want to arrest you. They want to help you. They want to take you to the hospital. They want to treat you right.
I got pulled over the Thanksgiving after my son passed away. I was way up in Keene, New Hampshire, and I was speeding on the way home because I wanted to get home. And I was with my stepdaughter, and I got pulled over in this little town I can't even remember the name. The cop ended up coming up to the window, and he's saying, you're going really fast, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? And I shared, with him, that I was a Christian, and I lost my son last year. And I don't know why I'm so emotional, but
it's okay.
The cop ended up praying with me. He was a Christian. So he's praying on the side of the road. And then, I asked if I could pray for him, and I'm praying to keep him safe, and thanking him for pulling me over, because, I could have killed somebody driving fast. And it's just, God intervenes so much when you don't even realize people look at it now, oh man, I got caught. No. He's saving you.
Right.
There's a reason. I ended up writing this huge thing on the police website about how kind he was, and how he prayed with me. And then, I asked him, I said, do you mind? It's just, those little things are just, they're beautiful.
Yeah. God has intervened in my life so many times. And there was a lot of times I didn't like it, because I still wanted to get high. I still wanted to play around.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like I said, that recent experience I had, that I was like, well, I don't want to die and go to hell. You know what I mean? But I was doing a lot more than just doing drugs, right? I was mocking God, and I was blaspheming Jesus, right? There's just a lot of things that I was about to be annihilated. I was literally facing the spirit of death. It was in the sky following me.
A fear of God is good.
It sounds crazy, right? But it's the truth. And what was I going to say?
You're going to say there's a check for me after this is done?
Yeah, it's that wad of money you got in the car. Yeah. What I was gonna ask you is for somebody that is watching right now, they're in hell, they're in the pit of it, they feel like they sold their soul. There's no turning back. They don't know God. They're so separated from God that if they died right now, they'd be separated from Him forever. What do you say to that person? How do you reach that person? What do you think?
Get on your knees and ask God to help you. And that's all it takes. It's so simple. I mean, just take the first step. I'm on my knees, Lord. I need you. I can't do it alone. I mean, and he'll just supply the rest.
Yeah.
You know, not by doing good deeds. It's your heart. You know, it's got to happen from your heart.
Right.
It's, you know, it's just, I never thought sobriety could be so good.
Yeah.
You know, I have more fun being sober.
Right.
But you got to get through. Addiction tells you that there's no way you will ever be able to get out of this.
Yeah.
You are stuck in this until you're dead. You'll never change. That's what it tells you. It lies. Satan will lie to you. And we believe it because we're afraid. We don't want to do the work. But all you can do is get on your knees and say, I've had enough. And He does the rest.
He who calls on the name of Jesus will be saved. That is a promise from Jesus Himself, from God Himself. That is a promise. All we have to do is call out His name. I've called out His name and He saved me. You called out His name, He saved you. These are people that I interview people that have been saved by calling on the name of Jesus. So if you're struggling right now and you feel like, man, first of all, you can't sell what ain't yours. Your soul ain't yours. That was bought at a price. So you can't sell it. So that's a lie that the devil is telling you and making you believe. That's the reason why I asked that question, because I was in that place where I thought I had sold my soul and there was no turning back. And that was a lie that Satan had me believing. Another thing is that God does not want you to go to hell. He loves you. He does not want you to go to hell. If we go to hell, we make those decisions on our own. There's a gray area where Jesus has died and shed His blood for us. He has made that sacrifice for us. So it's important that we get on our knees and we pray to Him, we call out to Him, and He will take the place of our sin. And we don't have to pay that price. Is there anything else that you would like to add or talk about? We can keep going, or I don't really have any questions. We didn't plan this episode.
This would be a good time to start a GoFundMe for myself. Kidding. No, but if anybody has really bad knees, they can always come to 995 Andover Street in Tewksbury on a Friday night at 6:30, and we're all here being broken.
Yep, that's right.
So God puts us back together piece by piece.
Yep.
And it's not always easy.
Nope.
I struggle all the time.
Yeah.
I have this stomach problem. I forget the name of it. Oh, I think it's called overeating.
You have me. I'll tell you.
So, it's addiction.
I got it too, man.
It just is.
It's not overeating. It's eating eating. We're eating good. That's all.
Yeah, and you got to eat.
Better than
but
you can fast too.
But Celebrate Recovery supplies a lot of things. You're at a church. You're taking a step towards Jesus.
Yep.
That's what He wants.
Yep.
And you're saying, here I am.
Right.
I'm broken. I can't do this by myself. I've tried for decades, and I'm finally saying, because I'm so stubborn, I can't do it. And you get to fellowship with all us, and you hear some music.
Yep.
Might be a little out of tune sometimes, but it's good.
Really good. No, it's really good. You can really feel the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
You can feel the presence of it. I come here personally. I've missed the past couple times. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You've been missing me, but I've been busy with the podcast. So either way, though, wherever I'm at, God is there.
That's right.
I know it.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is for the viewers that are watching, not in the state of Massachusetts, there's a Celebrate Recovery where you're at. I promise you.
There is.
If you look it up, it is there. There's somewhere that they are doing it, and you are welcome.
Even out of the country.
Yeah, even out of the country they have it. Yeah, I've actually seen that. I remember when Celebrate Recovery was introduced to me, my first time I was going to treatment, and I was like, I don't do all
Really?
that religion stuff. And I was more into AA. I was more into worshiping
Whatever
a
it
higher
takes.
power.
Whatever it takes.
And whatever it takes. My podcast is strictly for people that have came to found a higher power or found Christ. I choose Jesus because I don't believe in any other God.
Well, that's the way.
I believe in that's the narrow gate.
That's the only success I've ever had.
Yeah.
All the others, like my kitchen chair, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
if it works for you, I don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah, it doesn't last.
And I'm joking,
but you're being serious at the same time.
But Jesus really is the only way.
Yes. Yeah. And it sucks for some people. I know it sucks for some people to hear that, but you have to hear it because it's the truth. And I don't even care if that gets me, if I lose viewers because of that, because it's the truth. And there's going to be a day that God's going to question all of us, and he's going to question us. And there's going to be a day that Satan is going to be right there when you're being judged. He's going to say he's an adulterer, he's practicing sexual morality, he smokes nicotine, he does this, he does that. And then if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, Jesus isn't going to be there to back you up. Jesus isn't going to be there to help you out with that. And then it's only going to be between Satan and God's going to cast you into the pit of the fire because of that. We all have to have Jesus. It doesn't matter. Now, at some point, we got to stop sinning, right? At some point, we have to turn away and repent. But if you're coming to God honestly, if you're coming to Jesus honestly and saying, Jesus, I'm struggling with this. I suck at this. I'm horrible at this. He's going to help you. He's going to reach into you and help you. But if you're like doing the sin and you're just like neglecting it, there's still hope for you even in that. But you have to choose that. We all choose to be chosen. You got to make an effort. Many are called, few are chosen. But to be chosen, you got to choose it back. Because God chooses everybody. God wants everybody. He's jealous.
Amen.
I know he was angry at me when I kept turning away from him. And he was showing me, dude, to my face that he was real.
That's good.
He was showing me, and I was still like, nah. You know what I thought? This is how Satan was really so bad in me. I thought that I was the one performing these things. I thought I was doing this. Like what was happening in front of me, I was like, I'm manifesting this. I'm making this happen. I'm God. You know what I mean? And that was the dumbest thing because I went to hell for that. I paid the price for that. I didn't have that full vision. Like, you hear people how they had a testimony going to hell. I didn't have like that, but like from my waist down, dude, when I was being arrested, I was watching my skin melt off of my bones and come back and regenerate. And I was feeling the pain, and I could see it. And I don't even think I was fully feeling it. I think God was just giving me a piece of what it was like. That's good. Yeah, and then through that, dude, they administered a bunch of drugs into me, and I went out, and then I woke up in the hospital bed. I was chained to it, dude, like complete lockdown, like couldn't move with a mask over my face. But I had this peace that I hadn't had in so long, dude. And I instantly knew that Jesus had revealed himself to me because I called on his name. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, and that is going to happen. Regardless if it happens now or if it happens when he comes back, however it happens, it's going to happen. That's awesome. That's why it's better to just do it now. And even because you're going to notice the difference. You're going to have peace. You're going to feel better. Oh yeah. It's the whole thing. Yeah. But celebrate recovery near you, go to it, fellowship with people. Or just the church. Yeah. Or just go to church, and do more than, because if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling hate, if you're feeling anger, you're feeling all these things, it's probably because you're lacking a little bit of Jesus, a little bit of God in your life. Even just a little bit could do such a big change. Just making the decision, making the step and saying, you know what, I want to do better. I'm going to do better. Just making that decision will create a whole different environment in your energy field. You ever go around people and then it's like, man, I can't, even though I have a heart for certain people, sometimes I love people from a distance, but you go around people and you notice that there's such a dark force that is attached to their energy field it lingers on them. Yeah. And that's because that's literally them being so separated from God. Yeah. But they you know what I mean? And so you feel that and you're like, well, man, I gotta get away from this, because you start feeling attacked spiritually around certain people. So it's like, I'm encouraging those specific people to get a little bit of God in them, get a little bit of Jesus in you, because that'll start to transform that energy field. And then you'll go around people will start to gravitate towards you. You'll start to meet people that will give their testimony and they'll share their story with you. They start to just talk to you. Animals will come up to you. You know what I mean? Things like that. And you'll talk to them. Yeah. Exactly.
and that you'll know what they're saying.
Right. You'll understand what they're saying. I got love for you, brother. This was awesome.
Thank you very much, and
really
thank you for what
appreciate
you're doing.
I had a
This is
great
good.
time.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. Yeah, tell me more. Tell me how good
I hope I'm not arrested on the way out.
No, me either, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're saying I'm incriminating people.
No, I have a healthy fear of police.
Me too, dude. I got warrants.
Oh, good for you. Sound like my son.
I really do, man. But that's another thing. I'll say this. I'll even say it on here. So whenever I went to court out here, right, I got another charge out of because I did the time for my charges that I caught out here, and then they picked up another charge.
I'm well aware of how that works.
Yeah, for a fugitive from justice. I have it because I got a warrant in Maine, right, for violation of probation. So when I went to court, though, right, I'm sitting in the thing, and there's people in there with me, and I'm like, there ain't no way I'm getting out, And I didn't even know what God already had in store for me on this day, right? But this is when I just started building a relationship with Jesus again. You know what I mean? But he had told me prior to this, and he didn't it wasn't like he spoke to me. I didn't hear his voice, but I felt like I heard his voice in my thoughts, kind of thing. But he was telling me this every day. He was speaking to me because I'd read the Bible and all that stuff. He was telling me that if I just put him first and I put the kingdom first, and this is before I actually knew what this meant, right? That I will not have to go to Maine and I will not have to go and deal with that right now. He said he will take care of it. He told me that literally. And so I'm like, all right, whatever, God, I'll put you first. You know what I mean? Because I'm like at a point where I just got out of that hell situation. So I'm like, I'm at a point where I have to do this now, right? So I go to the courtroom and I'm sitting in the thing with the holding tank, whatever, and I'm like, there's no way I'm getting out. You know what I mean? I know I'm not getting out. So I get on my knees and I'm like, well, at least if I'm not going to get out and I'm not going to get a good situation, I'm going to pray for everybody else so they get a good situation. At least they'll get a good outcome. That's what I was just feeling at the time. So I go on my knees and I pray for everybody. They get the best possible outcome out of the situation. Even one of the guys got on his knees and started praying with me. And I was just praying, prophesying over their life, like, this is going to happen. They're going to get a good situation. The judge is going to be in a good mood. And like I said, I was already settled with, I'm not getting out. I'm going to go back to jail. They'll extend it another 10 days. The lawyer come down and told me that if they don't let me out, I'm going to have to sign this thing to extend it for 10 days. And we'll come back again. And if Maine doesn't come get me, whatever. Woo. So I get into the courtroom and we get in there and the DA was like, we tried to call Maine. They didn't pick up. So my lawyer started saying, look, they ain't picking up. We can keep coming back on voicemails, or we could just give him bail now, let him out. Because I had already been sitting in there for 6 months waiting for them to come get me. I'd already signed a waiver of extradition. So the judge granted it. And I believe it's because I prayed for everybody else in the cell. I didn't even ask for a good situation for me.
Yeah.
I didn't pray for me at all. I prayed for everybody else. Yeah. And because of that, I believe God made that happen. But I think he already had that plan because he knew that this was going to start to happen. If I wouldn't have got out, I wouldn't be here. Well, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Look what he did for me. I mean,
yeah.
You got to pay for what you do.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, to be close to God is the way to go.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to go to jail anymore.
Right.
I don't have to. I was kidding about the fear of police. I
He's a jokester.
I could be an upstanding citizen now because I walk with God.
Right.
Or try to as much as I can.
Right.
But
I didn't mean to talk so much on your
No, that's all right.
I was just trying to get that out. But you and your story, your testimony is very powerful, and I really appreciate you for coming on. It takes a lot to do that, especially to talk. And I know, it's hard to get emotional, especially as a man. But it's beautiful that you did because it shows other people, man, he really feels that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's writing he's a baby now.
Well, it's not live.
No, when they see this.
Oh yeah.
I'll see baby come up.
Yeah, you'll see something. Yeah.